So if you could please just settle in, find your breath, find your place, bring your presence to the present, meaning like wherever you're off thinking about other things, maybe in the past, maybe in the future, thinking about your to-do list, a little bit distracted energy, just go ahead and bring it in. You can use your breath to breathe yourself into this present moment. We're setting the intention to connect with Aries energy. Bella and I will be introducing it. You'll have an opportunity to plug into that. Aries, you've been in this season of time throughout however many years you've been alive. So Aries isn't anything new. And if this is your first time consciously connecting to it, you'll be pleasantly surprised that you probably are going to recognize it like it's an old friend. So just sink in, maybe even try to locate that place in you that reminds you of Aries energy. Maybe it's your belly, your solar plexus, maybe it's your heart. You can put your hand on that part of your body and just setting the intention to strengthen your connection with Aries, your warrior, your pioneering spirit. It's also going to help you understand who you are as an individual, as a sovereign being. This is a very important portal we are passing through. It's meant to initiate you. It's meant to remind you. And it's here to burn away whatever is not you. And if we can bring our conscious, focused attention on that, we can get out of the way. We can get out of our own way. We can knock down the walls that we put up that are protecting, preventing us from stepping forward into the unknown, into the true self, into our mission, into our purpose. A lot of you are being activated very strongly right now, and it's asking you to step up, to step forward, to begin in some cases. Just taking that moment to tune in, to drop in, to be here, to be grateful that we're all here together, circling around the same intention. Intention is powerful. Shared intention is even more powerful. I know there's so much hype about Lionsgate portal. Leo is just one of the fire energies. Aries is its own initiation. And the same hype that we give around Lionsgate and manifestation, bring that awareness here now, knowing there's a portal in front of you. And the first portal you ever entered was the birth canal. That is how you became who you are today. You came through and you separated from God, from source, from your mother. And you came here. You came earthside. That was your first portal. So we're going to tune back into this. Rewind back into this. You knew who you were excited about being here on earth. We're going to bring in that excitement, that joy, that vigor, that I go first. I'm ready now. That energy is what wants to spark again in you. And with a gentle smile or remembrance, we'll connect more consciously to Aries season. So thank you and welcome to our webinar. Welcome to Aries season. Welcome to the first sign of the zodiac. You have arrived.
What I was feeling when I was looking at that image is that the sun is exalted in Aries. So the sun is our life's work. The sun is our mission. So this is the time, each new beginning is where we have that opportunity to express our true self, to be on our life mission, to have the intention of starting something with that energy of being in our heart and be in our self-empowerment.
Yeah. What a wonderful time to be alive. So before we get into who you are, because that's really what Aries season is about, we just want to introduce ourselves if this is your first time with us. I'm Ashley. I'm here with Bella. and we'll be your facilitators today. We are part of Unlock Your Design. That's our company. So this is an online academy where human design, gene keys, astrology, I Ching, other systems are taught as tools for self-awareness and empowerment. And the mission, even as it is evolving, is to help guide and inspire people to embody their truth and their sovereignty. And what better way to really underline this than in Aries season, where it is about individuality and it is about sovereignty. You are here to discover what your truth is. And the first zodiac sign is going to set you on a path, on a trajectory of uncovering that truth. And all along the way, you're going to be challenged, you're going to be inspired, you're going to be initiated into different quests on your hero's journey. And this is all to help you uncover more about the truth of who you are, why you're here, how to be more natural in this beautiful playground that we have that is Earth, and to just see how you want to show up and be in relationship with others. But for this time, we're just going to focus on who are you? How do you want to show up? What do you want to do? It's very focused on you. And you don't need to worry about others here. It is just about getting reacclimated, reoriented, remembering you. These are some of the systems that we're bridging. So just to remind you that this is what we do. We marry these systems together because Bella and I don't see them as separate. We see them as serving the same purpose. So why not marry them together? Why not unite them, unify them, and bridge them in a way that is going to support you on this journey of self-discovery, self-mastery, and hopefully eventually you're going to share that mastery with the world. And the ripples that you make by just being you or just being in service is going to help other people do the same. So you can see in the middle of the body graph in the G center, there's a key, and that key is your genius, is who you are. And we each have something so deep inside of us that is so unique to us. There is no comparison. There is no competition. It's just what we were meant to do here, who we were meant to be here. And that key, it symbolizes that sometimes we lock that up, but we always have the key. There's no limitation. There's no victimization except the ones that we place on ourselves. So right now, knowing that you can unlock that, you can express that, you can be that in the world. And at the same time, just you being you is going to give other people permission to be them. So not only are we unlocking this for ourselves, but we're also unlocking it for each other. And so it's a sacred responsibility. Be who you are meant to be in this world. Inspire other people to be the same. We don't need copycats. We don't need homogenization. We don't need sameness. Sameness is the death of your genius. So let's move away from that. If that has been the conditioning, it's no longer. That's one of the things we'll just let go of. Do you want to add anything about these systems or anything else that you want to share, Bella?
I feel like you're speaking to the beginning of the wheel and to all new beginnings. And it starts with the self, with the simple, with the coming back home. So that individual spark. And also something that we have been exploring lately is that deeper individuation, that there is an individual process that looks different for all of us. And in that individual process, going back even to gate or gene key 1, there are going to be moments of complete rest where nothing happens. And we sometimes need to even feel into the entropy and the void. And then there are other moments where there is sparking creativity. And then we get to create, so that there is not necessarily a preference between the rest and the action, but it's more to get to know ourselves through these cycles. And as we do that, we come deeper into individuation. And by doing that, we find our self-empowerment. And when we create in the world, we can do that in a more powerful way. The beautiful thing with walking the wheel is that now in the beginning of the astrological year, we get to focus a little bit more on the self. We get to come back to gate 1, gene key 1, the first sign. And when it comes to bridging the gap, the easiest way to explain why we do what we do and why we feel like these systems are different languages for the same thing is to just look at the sky and understand that those different systems that we are using are different ways of mapping the sky. And we see the sky as if we're looking up, it would be like a wheel, and in different directions there would be different astrological signs or constellations. And of course, the tropical zodiac is simplifying everything, saying that each sign is 30 degrees on the sky. And we understand it's a model. And then we have the Eastern way, the I Ching, of mapping the sky and understanding that there is an overlay. So when we see that part of the sky that we say is Aries, that starts on the spring equinox, that's also where we're going to have gate 25 to start with, and 6 other gates that are going to be on that part of the sky. So looking at the sky, mapping it, and seeing that we have the I Ching, we have human design, the gene keys, we have those 64 hexagrams that are there, and then there's a different language for each one of them. And even people like us or Rob Comber, who is finding more gates and finding a new language. This is a living transmission, especially when it comes to the I Ching, which is the book of changes. There is a lot of evolution that's happening, and that's why it's so much fun to learn these systems and then be part of the expression of that living transmission. And then astrology is also a language that's evolving, but somehow, at least how we see it, more about finding terms that help us to understand the gates even deeper. So for example, knowing that Aries is cardinal fire. Then we have those 6 archetypes that are going to be in transit in the next months that all have a bit of that cardinal fire energy to them. So using astrology to understand the gates and the transits even deeper.
Yeah. And thank you for those of you that have been walking the wheel with us and incorporating the systems into your practice and showing up on the Walking the Wheel calls. Walking the wheel is our method, is the system that we use to be able to decondition and come more into ourselves. Belle and I have been walking the wheel individually for some time, but then coming together in 2019, 2020, and bringing through the archetypes. That was our spark. That was our creativity. That was the thing that wanted to come through, be birthed through us as we came together, and what was initiated in our fractal, in our team, because we have our individual spark, right? But then when you bring in another person or a couple of people, the alchemy shifts, it changes. And what comes through is completely different than what you would bring through individually. But with walking the wheel, Belle and I have constantly, constantly been bringing through something, co-creating with the archetypes as we are going through the transits. Now, walking the wheel is beautiful as you are just conceptualizing it, thinking about it, learning about it, recognize it in your life. But there does come a point where eventually there's something that sparks in you that says, I want to co-create with you, and I want you to create something into this world. I want you to bring it through into the physical. And that's beautiful to witness, seeing people coming and having their own interpretation and spin. Richard Rudd was in human design with Ra for a very long time before he got the gene key transmission, which was birthed out of a lot of his interactions with the human design system, as well as all the other things that he threw in the pot and alchemized in his life. And so that's what was birthed through him. We're all meant to be creators. We're individual spirits. We're having a human experience. But just like women were built with wombs that could bear children and that can birth children onto the physical plane, all of us have a sacral, an energetic womb space that is calling for us to create in the world. That can be big, that can be small. But walking the wheel is going to help you know more parts of yourself, to integrate more of you into yourself. And then you have a holistic way of being where you're not fragmented, you're not disassociated, because you're working through each of these archetypes to bring them into union with yourself. And when you have more of yourself online and operating, then you can really bring through the truth, the essence of who you are creating in the world, because it's all of you. It's the totality of you. And that is being brought forth in your creations. And we do it so many times during the day too. When you pick out your outfit, when you style your hair, when you have a conversation, the way that you use your words, it's all unique. It's all a style. And so we need to hone in on that. And the way that we've learned to do that is by walking the wheel. And the people that have walked the wheel with us have been initiated. It's not an easy thing to walk the wheel and to have it be the top of the mind every day, not just on Tuesdays when we have our walking the wheel calls, every day. And we get triggered and the archetypes challenge us, and some are really easy to walk with, but we're learning to master these 64 parts of ourselves. And I think the bigger mission is to be at peace with who we are and to not need to disassociate, to not need to fragment, protect, or challenge or overtly like aggress other people that show up in a way that we can't deal with. There is a way for us to come into harmony and peace and union with ourselves and with each other. And I think that, like Mother Teresa said, peace starts in the home. Peace starts in the house. You're not going to make a change in the world unless you make that change in yourself. So it's a pipe dream for you to think that you could just go and be a hypocrite in the world and not do the real change inside of yourself, but expect everyone else to change. That's called codependency. I don't want to deal with my shit, so the world needs to change, so it's not going to trigger anything in me. But that's not how it works. So let's do the deep work together. And not to make it all deep and heavy and like, we've got shit to do, people. No, walking the wheel is not always challenging, but it is always rewarding.
So here we are in part of that overlay that we're speaking about. Those are the archetypes that are going to be in transit during the month as the sun is moving through Aries. So we have the innocent, which is on the cusp between Pisces and Aries, 25, the discoverer, 17, the manager, 21, thunder, 51, the nomad, 42, and the eternal child, 3, that has that cusp as well. So the very last part of the 3 is already in Taurus.
We'll come back around to these archetypes, but here's the Aries archetypes that are here to support you during your transit in Aries season. So where astrology doesn't go as deep, human design gene keys does. Astrology gives you degrees, but it doesn't tell you what archetype is that degree. It just says, here's Aries season, here's what Aries season is about. But beginning of Aries season, completely different than end of Aries season. Same in the middle. Everything starts to build and transition. Like, these archetypes have their own personality. And just like you are not the same as the person born 5 or 6 days before you, right? Because you're in a different transit, you're a different archetype. Just like the lines are going to create more individuation. Just like when the moon moves so quickly, Mercury moves so quickly, that's going to give you a different trait personality than the person next to you. Same thing with the person that's born in the same hospital at the same time in the same location as you. You're not going to be the same. And that's because we have genetics, we have epigenetics. How are we nurtured? How are we raised? What lineage do we come from? And what's happening cosmically? What are we being influenced by? That's also epigenetics and nurture.
So here we see it again, the wheel and the 12 zodiac signs. We don't see it here, but there is a correspondence between the signs and the houses. So what this is an introduction to every month when we come on, when the sign is shifting, it is an invitation into learning foundational astrology as a way to expand your language of human design gene keys and possibly even the I Ching. And when we are looking at the normal astrology chart, we're always going to have both the signs and the houses, where we have 12 signs, we have 12 houses. So when we are looking at a sign, if it's the first sign right now, that corresponds to the first house. If we would look at the 8th sign, which is Scorpio, that would correspond to the 8th house. And then those different houses and signs, they have rulers, and they are traditional rulers, but because we go with more a modern approach, we are looking at the modern rulers, which are the 9 planets that rule the 12 signs and houses.
Today we shall focus on Aries. So Bella mentioned Aries, first house. It's associated with Mars. Bella did also mention that the sun is exalted here too. So it's happy in this placement.
I'm just responding in the chat. Of course, like Ashley was saying, you have degrees in astrology, and there's even the Sabian symbols, which are ways of interpreting every single degree. And then the decans are super helpful because there is also a way of looking at the decans, which are the 10 degrees, so 3 times 10 that you have within each sign. And you can also look at the under ruler of those decans. So there are so many different ways of mapping, so many different ways of explaining. And it hasn't been done that much in the human design community or the Gene Key community to really look at the overlay between astrology and human design, and even being able to say those gene keys or those gates are Aries gates or Taurus gates. It's not that common, but that is something that we do and that we find actually really working. And sometimes some archetypes, it takes a little bit of mind twisting and coming into embodiment as well and living the transit to understand why is this specific transit happening in this specific sign. For me, it was a little bit like that with gate 24, for example, which is in Taurus, which is in the Ajna center. And it took me quite some time to understand how that could be in that same feminine energy of Taurus, because it seemed to me more mental. But that's also where we have to stretch ourselves a little bit more to be able to see some of those parallels. And maybe we can even discover that sometimes it doesn't really fit. And that's also part of the discernment and the journey and how we are able to integrate these together in ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw that model, and the model is always perfect. So here we decided to bring in a wheel, which is actually a bi-wheel, where you have a person's both birth activations. So all the planets that you see inside of the wheel is the birth time planets, and everything that you see in red is the 3 months before is the design. And we like this bi-wheel because it has the signs and it has the gates or the hexagrams. So it's so easy to see wherever you go in the chart. So here we see in Taurus, in gate 2, well, we have the sun on the personality side and Chiron on the design side. And it's easy to see it in this layout in terms of the conjunctions, in terms of the overlay with the signs. And this comes from Genetic Matrix. We'll put the link in as well. If you don't have the pro plan, we do recommend that. It's $12.99 per month, and you can cancel your plan at any time. And it has a lot of overlays with human design and astrology, and also some of the newer things like asteroids explored together with human design, like Him Golda. So it's definitely a place of discovery if you want to go deeper into the overlay genetic matrix.
And you'll want to, for the sake of Aries season, see what you have activated within the realm of Aries. So which archetypes you have during this season. So just see, for example, this one has 25 in Venus, and that corresponds in the gene keys to the IQ sphere. So the IQ sphere here is in gate 25. And so that's an Aries gate. So that's going to give you some insights into the energy, and maybe for this person, how the IQ and Aries is going to weave together. And if you are curious and interested in going deeper into how to read that in your personal chart, I do recommend you get the setup for Aries season. That's what we did a few years ago. And we go into Aries in your chart, Mars in your chart, the first house in your chart, and how to interpret that. So that'll be helpful for you if you want to go deep and explore those different activations that you have that are related and associated with Aries, because they'll be amplified this season. So identifying that is going to be helpful, because those are the parts of you that are going to come to the forefront this season. They're going to be here ready to go because it's in congruency with the cosmic weather, right? They get amplified during this time.
And I'm just going to respond about the new year for the gene keys. So both in human design and gene keys, we would say that gate 41 is the rave new year, because that's what came through for Rahu, and it also goes together quite well with a Chinese calendar. I would say there are 4 ways of celebrating the new year. So it's the astrological new year that we have right now with the spring equinox. We have the rave new year in the 41. We have the calendar year in the Western world, which is the 1st of January. And all of us also have our birthday, which is the solar return. And that's the new year. So you get 4 chances every single year to have this initiation energy and to start with something. And also to make sure that the things that need to end are actually ending. So that's quite exciting. And some of you are going to have your birthday in the beginning between January and March 21st. So then everything lays in this little quarter or this little part of the wheel. But some of you are going to have it completely somewhere else. Like maybe you're born in September, in October, and then it's a little bit different. And it's almost like you get a chance that is away from this beginning of the year. So it's a little bit how the uniqueness also of each one of us are allowing us to close cycles and open new paths and cycles.
How amazing to be able to have multiple opportunities. And I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure in the beginning of the year to get their New Year's resolution started, and then they find themselves dropping off, and it's like, why is it not sticking? Well, you're going to also be challenged in Pisces season, where we've got a lot of emotional energy, and it's going to be like, do you really want to commit to this? Is this really what you want to do? How do you really feel about it? And Aries coming back in to be like, let's go. Let's start this. Let's begin this. Aries doesn't wait for clarity. Aries moves. Aries leaps. And if you feel the pull, that's your fire talking, and it's you being summoned. All of these different zodiac seasons are a threshold, are an initiation into what this zodiac season cares about. So it's not just a season. Like I said, it's a threshold. So the zodiac wheel might begin here when it comes to first house, second house, third house, like the correspondence is. Here's the first zodiac season. This is like your first breath, your first step, your bold beginning. The first house is the house of self. So here we can come back to that and remind ourselves of that and be bold. I think that could be a really good, simple way for you to remember what you need to do, your assignment this season. Be bold. What does that look like for you is going to be different than other people.
Brenda is speaking about gate 3. So that is another way of looking at the wheel. And that also is translated into the archetypes. We call the 3 the eternal child. It never grows up. And every time you come back there, it's this opportunity for innovation. I would say that's more connected to the alchemical stages. And that's something that Richard Rudd also went deeper into as interpreting his own 7-year journey of deconditioning. So we call it in human design the experiment. As he went through the experiment, he also was able to discern those phases. So he calls it 7 years on the wheel, where you stay 40 days in each gate and you allow that archetype, that gene key, that gate to work through you. And then 64 gates. So it takes you 7 years to go through the wheel. And that's when all your cells have changed in your body and that you have that ability to come up an octave and live in a higher frequency.
And we'll speak more to the archetypes that are here in Aries. So we'll mention the 3 and that gate of mutation or that channel of mutation. But walking the wheel, going through these transits, it is about learning astrology and human design and gene keys and all that stuff and the mental component of it. But it's also about becoming it and living it and letting it shape you and let that work through you season by season, transit by transit. That's why it's a wheel. It doesn't end anywhere. There's millions of initiations through here. And some of you are going to have initiations in places other people won't. For example, let's reach a Chiron and then, okay, this is a little bit of a challenge. Or let's reach your the evolution sphere or the purpose sphere or your Saturn, or just you're going to be initiated many times. And that's part of evolving and growing. And I think the whole purpose of all of this is to grow up, is to evolve, is to become. And it's walking the wheel is not like this program or this method. It's like this pilgrimage. And it doesn't need to be a serious thing. Like, it's not like going to school. It's like there's a lot of grace in this. There's no grading. That's the thing. We got to decondition ourselves from feeling like we have to be perfect. There is no perfect. There is perfectly you, and that's different. So the journey that this is going to take you through the 12 different portals, the 12 different gates of transformation, each one of them is a key to unlocking the next version of yourself and to love yourself more. I think the name of the game here is just love anyway. So how much more can you love yourself, even in the times of struggle and challenge when you're butting up against something that is initiating you or shocking you, or life is delivering something that's really hard for you at the moment. But it's the hero's journey, and this is the journey of a lifetime, and it matters, and it doesn't matter, but it matters if you believe it matters. And I think that we ascribe meaning to life because we also are deeply emotionally connected to life. And why not make the best of it? So that's what we're trying to do here and together, is making the best of this life that we have. Okay, we'll go back to the mental realm for a moment. So just so that you guys are all clear and that you understand about the language, Bella, did you want to come in and explain this a bit?
Yeah, here we are seeing what I was saying before. So the reason why we include foundational astrology and that we come to you every month and we tell you about this possible weaving is that knowing the astrological language doesn't only tell us about the zodiac sign, but also the characteristics of the archetypes, the gates, the gene keys, right? So we know that depending on where they are on the wheel, they have more characteristics. So we also learn through astrology about the polarity, if it's feminine or masculine. We learn about the modality, if it's cardinal, fixed, or mutable. We learn about the element, fire, earth, water, and air. We learn about the ruler, one of the planets, which then can connect us back into, for example, the gene key chart, where we know the different planets have different spheres and mean different things. Then we have the corresponding houses as well. And then for each and every sign, which then corresponds also to the gates, it's personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal. And that becomes super interesting when we combine that with the circuitry, which is also individual, tribal, and collective. So when we assign that maybe it's individual, but we have it together with tribal circuitry, what does that really mean? What does the archetype really care about? Well, there are kind of two streams. There's, in that sense, an individual personal stream, but there's also the tribal stream there. So this really makes it very rich. The way of looking at the archetypes is very rich, and that allows us to not guess, but to actually come back to some of those basic things to understand the archetype in a broader sense.
So let's translate that all into Aries season. So Aries season is going to transit around March 21st to April 19th each year. The polarity here is masculine. It flip-flops every season. So last season in Pisces, it was feminine. So now we're going to move to masculine. The modality is cardinal, and the element is fire. And within the element of fire, it's going to move through the different modalities. So there's going to be a cardinal fire, Aries. There's going to be a mutable fire. There's going to be a fixed fire, which is going to be Leo. And then there's going to be a mutable fire, which is Sagittarius. And then the ruler is Mars here. So like Bella said, each zodiac sign will have a planet. Sometimes the zodiac signs are going to share rulers. And that's going to be the case for Taurus. When we move into Taurus, it'll share rulers of Venus with Libra. Here we move into corresponding to the first house, and it's personal. And this is a really big transition because we moved from Pisces, which was transpersonal, and then we're moving into Aries, which is personal. And then these next zodiac seasons will continue to be personal. It's not going to be flip-flopped every zodiac season like masculine, feminine. No, it's personal now, and we're on a personal journey for 6 of these signs as we move from ourselves to interacting with others, and then eventually moving into transpersonal. And again, like I said, if you want to dig into that more, please do go into the setup for Aries season. Those of you that are in the inner circle, you already have this. Now that we've initiated you into Aries season, I do recommend you go into the course and see what's in there. We have some master classes for you that are going to help you get initiated into Aries season, and also look at your own chart to see what do you have hanging out in the first house in Aries, and then what gate is Mars in. So go check that out. It's only $35 if you guys are not part of it, and it has so much in it. And for those of you that are very new to astrology, we even have an introduction to astrology, so that we can catch you up and build that foundation for you so that you're not lost when you're watching the masterclass. So you don't need to be at any degree of wisdom of these systems. We will catch you up in that so that you have the terms, the foundation, all of that stuff. So some more of the characteristics of Aries season. So like we've said, it occurs when the sun is in the zodiac season of Aries. It is the first sign ruled by Mars, and it'll ignite bold action and fearless initiative. This archetypal energy of Aries is also associated with, so it can be courageous, assertive, passionate, energetic, independent, bold, trailblazing, competitive, confident, and spontaneous. And you take a minute to feel into those, or even look and see which one really resonates the most with you right now. Passionate, courageous, which one? Bold. And then something that you can expect in Aries as an archetype or during the season, or what might show up as a challenge for you, or those that carry Aries very strongly, is that they can tend to be impulsive or reckless or impatient, sometimes aggressive, even overly competitive, headstrong, short-tempered, self-centered, and sometimes inconsiderate. This is very much about the self. So you can even throw in narcissistic here. That could be a little bit of an extreme, but it's here. They're going to care about themselves, and that's not a bad thing. And I think when people have a lot of individual circuitry or Aries energy, they can be labeled as selfish. But if that's your main energy type, you're here to understand who you are and what you want. Maybe they spent lifetimes being Libra-ish, where they're just gonna care about others and to the detriment of themselves. So let them have this lifetime where they're a little bit selfish and give them a pass, maybe. If they're being inconsiderate, then you set a boundary. And maybe they'll learn. But their first house, they're new, they're babies. They gotta learn here. And how do babies start out? Very selfish, right? Am I going to survive or not? Is mommy going to feed me or not? It's all about them. And that's why they say to children, the world doesn't revolve around you. But to an Aries, maybe it does. It's okay. I'm just saying it's okay. I'm not excusing bad behavior, though. That can be corrected. Aries season is a time for igniting fresh starts, stepping into your personal power, and charging ahead with clarity and conviction. Maybe not even clarity. Sometimes they charge ahead without clarity and then they figure out later on what it's all about. It invites you to trust your instincts, lead with authenticity, and embrace every opportunity to pioneer your new paths. Trusting your spark, trusting your fire. Taking action. So much action to be taken in Aries season. You're going to feel invigorated and you're going to come online and come alive during this season. It's definitely a fire that is welcome, especially as we transition into spring equinox. It's like spring is coming. Things are being birthed. It's a beautiful, exciting time right now.
Yay. So let's do some more of the overlay and the weaving that we are speaking so much about. So here we're looking at the correspondence between the signs in astrology and the lines in the hexagram. So of course, if you're into human design, you know that the first line is the foundation for each and every hexagram. That's where we have the foundational energy. So if you go into Royer, who's line companion, and you read about line 1, you're going to get the foundational energy for the whole entire hexagram. You might also know that the pinnacle of the hexagram is the 5th line. So that's where we can see it blooming, and we can see it also how the outside is perceiving it or projecting on it to be as the pinnacle of the hexagram. So when we're looking at the wheel, and we've said so many times today, it starts with Aries. Well, that's the first sign. We can say that there is a correspondence from that first sign to the first line. However, very simple mathematics. If there are 12 different signs, but only 6 lines, we need to allocate 2 of the signs to one line. So here we're going to see that in the very first line, we're going to allocate Aries and Taurus. Why are both there? We could say that this is the masculine and the feminine expression of the first line. So Aries would be the masculine expression. That goes back to what we said before. We can see the polarity for each and every sign. So we know Aries is masculine, Taurus is feminine. And it has a lot to do with temporality here. So when we look at Aries, everything's going to be fast and outwards and masculine in that sense. And we have Mars as the ruler. And then when we look at Taurus, it's feminine, it's introvert, it's taking in, it's receiving. And the ruler is Venus. And both of them care about the foundation. And both of them are quite individualistic in terms of how the characteristics of Aries energy and Taurus energies is first and foremost connecting to self, to that self-empowerment. And on the shadow side, when it comes to Taurus, there can be some of that not really knowing how to value yourself. It's connected to the 2nd house in the material plane. And for Aries, it can even be to not really even know who you are. It can have to do with the self and the identity and the self-empowerment in that sense. So we're going to see a little bit more, continuing this exploration in the next slide of how we can see that correspondence between the first line and those first signs in the zodiac. So this is partly from Gene Keys and Richard Rudd's way of putting the qualities in each and every line. But it's also part of something that Ash and I did last year that we called the stages of embodiment. Because the same way as you can walk the wheel with the transits, you can also walk the wheel with the lines. There are 384 times in the wheel every year that you're going to change lines. So there's a lot of opportunity to feel into a line and feel into that shift. So what we said there is that the purpose of line 1, and that would also then go for Aries and Taurus, is to explore, is to build your foundation through investigation and inquiry so that you can create stability, security, certainty, and self-empowerment and bring something new into the world. And even just here, if you stop for a moment, you're going to see that this is kind of a braid between Taurus and Aries. Because when we speak about stability, security, certainty, that's very Taurus. But then we speak about self-empowerment and bringing something new into the world, that's very Aries. So interesting here to see how they are both together in a braid when it comes to line 1. And it's exploring the world. You come in as an individuated self into the world, and then you learn to live the material plane. So Aries and Taurus, that's really what happens in this exploration of coming in new into life, into another year, whatever beginning we're speaking about. And here you just see a little bit more of the keynotes for line 1, just so that we can think about it as well in terms of the astrological signs. So the roles here: investigator, explorer, anchor, entrepreneur, and creator. And the high frequency is to be rock solid and have that inner certainty, which is something I think that people with a lot of Aries or Taurus, yes, that they have that kind of rock solid inner certainty, and they're going to go with the way they know it to be. And the low frequency, that can be to be insecure, a little bit more of that Taurus energy, or afraid of your own potential, definitely Aries energy. And then we have response best to full information and heartfelt directness. Like, yeah, with an Aries, just say it. That's what they are going to do. They're going to say it, and maybe if they need to apologize later, they will. They're going to do it. If they need to apologize later, they will. And even with Taurus, it's like, don't lose my time. Just give it to me. Tangible here on the table, and then we can deal with it. And then lastly, the general advice: your fears must be explored and accepted and go within. So this is partly how you really embody your power and your impact, that you explore your fears, you don't let them be an obstacle for leading, for moving in the world. So I would love to hear if this resonates. Was this very complex, or did you feel like, wow, this makes sense? I would love to hear how you guys feel about it, because I believe it's really cool to be able to overlay things like the wheel and the hexagram structure and see that everything is processes, that whatever we look at, we can look at it as a process, and it goes from more simple, more individual, to more complex. And then it goes around again. That's the ecosystem of existence, of reality, of consciousness.
Okay, let's return to the Aries archetypes and speak a little bit to them so that you are adequately prepared for the transits that are approaching. So here we have the innocent. This is archetype 25. You're going to see that it is in the G center of human design. And if you look closer, you're going to see too that on the other side we have the 51. So it's bridging from the G center to the will center. So it's bringing in, and the will center is motivation, and the 51 is the gate of shock. So we're going to be shocked into our innocence. Can we hold an innocent perspective when life throws us something that stirs us or shocks us or surprises us? And the innocence is going to help us be able to see the world from unjaded, untainted lenses in its higher exaltation. It's here to help us see new experiences with fresh eyes instead of labeling an experience as connected to another one, and then we're going to approach it in the same way that we approached the other one. It's here to also bring us into connection with our higher self, with a higher spirit of love that is possible, not a small self this bigger perspective, this bigger universal love that doesn't have conditions, it doesn't have filters. It's here to help us see the world as a child would in a way too. Can we return to innocence before life jaded us, before life showed us its horrors and its judgments and all of that stuff? Can we still look at life as if we were a child? Like, it's exciting, it's encouraging, I'm curious, I don't have too many past experiences to be able to tell me that this is wrong. The 25 is a beautiful way to begin something without any past, without anything clouding up what you're looking at. So this is how we begin Aries season.
I wanted to say something about that too, because 2025 and 2026 are important points here. So this is the 0 point, right? This is the Aries point in the wheel. And we're going to have two planets that are the outer planets, Saturn and Neptune, coming over this 0 point that is in the middle of the 25 in this year. Neptune takes 165 years to go around. So of course, it's an energy where we have a shift of a 165-year long period that is closing and that is beginning. And then I think it's actually on Valentine's Day, if I remember right. It's in the beginning of next year, we're going to have that exact conjunction, because we have the retrogrades as well, right? So they are going to meet their Saturn and Neptune. And then we also have the retrogrades of the closer planets, Mercury and Venus, that are moving back and forth over this point. So for all of us, it's very highlighted. Everything that Ashley spoke about, this cusp between Pisces and Aries, and the old that is ending and the new that is beginning. And it's for all of us, because it's both connecting to the closer planets and the bigger collective cycles.
So can we tune into that pure spirit of universal love? Can we have motiveless action rather than personal will? This gate is going to hold the key to true innocence, to surrender, to remaining untainted, like I said, and then being able to move through adversity. So childlike trust in life's goodness is here. And we're also here to be vulnerable, open, and to act with sincerity. It can get easily hurt here as well with harshness. And the 51 is no stranger to harshness. If it's acting in the shadow, it can be really harsh. And can we retain the spirit when life brings harshness to us? Can we remain innocent? So that's what we need to ask ourselves. Can I act selflessly without claiming personal will? This is very hard in Aries season. Very hard. But it's a bridge. It's a bridge from Pisces to Aries. Pisces, it will sacrifice everything of itself. And this is where it begins. So in a way, the 25 that we've experienced in Pisces season, where it may self-sacrifice, it's here to also have balance. We're not here to sacrifice ourselves for the other. That's not love. That's not loving ourselves. That's loving others more than loving ourselves in a low expression. But can we maintain innocence? Can we have motiveless action? And when we are taking initiative and sparking, where does it come from? And I guess that's what Aries season we might be learning and discovering is, as we're taking initiative and action, coming in to feel into what's my come from? What inspired this action? Was it a reaction? Was it a response? And even if it's a reaction, where does that reaction come from? What is the place in you that it sprouts from? Anger, fear, sadness, any of the emotions, any of the preconceived beliefs or notions. Were you triggered? Were you not? What happened here? So that's something that we can look into. Okay. Next up is the Discoverer. So here, archetype 17 is going to be in the Ajna center. So you're going to see that, and it has a connection to the 62. So you can see it's bridging from the throat to the ajna. So this is about conceptualization, bringing ideas, concept things, and articulating it. This is the organizational being. It's actually pretty logical. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the 11 and the 56, which is more abstract and storyteller. This is literal facts, and it's more logical. So this is the ability to form and share opinions that shape future patterns. It can be challenging authority while seeking logical correctness. So we're going to have strong opinions here. We're going to have logical viewpoints, and it's testing ideas and figuring out what sticks. Now, like Richard says, with opinion as the shadow frequency, right? And then we have farsightedness and omniscience. If you're looking at life through a keyhole, you don't really have a wide perspective. So it's about having an opinion, but being open to that changing and being mutable, and also collecting more data to help you understand that my opinion is built off of this, and maybe as I get more information, I'm changing my opinion. But when we create such a really strong, rigid opinion of something, we also form judgment. The program partner of the 17 is the 18. When we form judgment about someone else for having a different opinion, we create division. We're no longer a collective, we're separating. And we're saying, my idea, my opinion is better than yours, and here's why. And logic is great and facts are great, but also sometimes things that are not going to make sense to the logical mind. We're not going to be able to explain the power of love. We're not going to be able to explain the great mystery. And so it's really easy to say, here are the facts, and here's what I can see, and this is what I know, and this is what is proven. But some things can't be proven, and so that's where our opinions and our judgments gets tested here. So take this opportunity to, as this is in transit, reflect on, do I have any dogmatism? Can I become more balanced? Can I bring in more viewpoints? Can I hold paradoxes? So we're asking ourselves here how strongly we're holding on to an opinions, and is that opinion serving me right now? Because if it's not, then we can let go of that storyline. We can let go of that belief. We can let go of that thing that we're believing so strongly about. And we can change our opinion.
So this one is fire over thunder. So even in the two previous one, we had thunder on the bottom. So it has a lot of that initiating energy, because gate 51 is thunder over thunder. And here we have fire over thunder. So there's a lot of power. There's a lot of energy in this one. And if we go back to the body graph, this is the only channel, one of only two gates that are connecting the ego center, which is a motor, to the throat. It's a very strong ego manifesting channel. And we can think that the 45, which is on the other side, is what has all the resources. That's the king or the queen. And really, the whole process of that actually working, taking that determination, taking the ego energy and getting it up into the throat, into manifestation, actually requires both the 21 and the 45. So even when we go to the new beginnings and managing your resources, we need to have both sides. It's not just to win on the lotto and then we are set up forever. It's so much how we manage things. And I think that this is something to think about, both when it comes to just our own finances, but also when it comes to our relationships with Venus right now in retrograde. As you're starting over, how are you managing? Is probably not the best word for relationships, but how are you showing up? Because if you want something to grow, not only have whatever it is right now, but both with finances and with relationship, we want it to grow. So what are you putting in there in terms of your fire, in terms of your initiation, in terms of your intention? Those are words that we spoke about today. That is super important, because anything that you have, in order for it to grow and flourish, it actually needs care. It needs to have that intelligence. And there is also here a courage, because rigid control is never the answer, whether it comes to educating children or trying to set up a community that thrives. So it's a completely different kind. And I think that this goes back to a leadership that is leadership by example, because that's how we can feel that 21. It's in the aura. It's in the courage of facing whatever challenges are coming when it comes to the family or the community. This tribal energy is connected to the ego, and it cares. It's ready to do almost anything in honor and valor of the tribe and the people that it cares for.
And to be recognized with the 21 and given control of some kind, like control when it's assigned is way better than if somebody's coming in to try to physically or whatever control something of somebody. I have children that have the 45 to 21 channel. 2 of them have it. And my eldest has only the 21. And since he's older, he often wants to exert control, be in charge. And the other kids are like, no, like, we don't even need you because we have a whole channel. So we don't need you to control anything about us. And that's where sovereignty and individuality comes from. And what I'm teaching my kids is you have to ask. If you want to offer an opinion, and if you want to come in and try to change the way someone's doing it, you have to have permission. You can't just come in and exert that will on somebody else. Hey, can I offer you something I noticed? And if they say no, you have to learn to just hold it back. We went bowling recently, and everybody had an opinion to offer about how somebody was doing it wrong. And I'm like, next time you guys feel called to just correct somebody, which if we move back to the transit before this is 17, opinions and also judgment, this can bleed over to the 21 where it's like, I'm going to control you by telling you you're doing it wrong and I got a better way. But I told them, you have to ask. And it was so hard for them because they asked. And then the other person said, no, I don't want your opinion right now. Thank you. And they were like, and then like, Mom, could I share it with you? And I'm like, well, if you want to share it with me, but not so that they can hear. So somehow you can get your opinion across. But it's very difficult. So think about Aries energy and how it's impulsive and it wants to act and wants to go. Ask yourself, why do I want to control this? What's the purpose of this? Why do I feel so strongly that I need to control another person or another thing or whatever? If it has to do with you and your own sovereignty and personal resources, yes, by all means, you're in charge of that. And that's why it's really important and also highly encouraged to give children responsibilities to take care of their own things, right? Take care of your own room, take care of your own body. Here's the responsibilities. Here's your money. How do you want to spend it? Here's your time. How do you want to spend it? That's really hard as a parent to tell the kids, okay, you can decide when to go to bed. I have a bunch of manifesting generators. They're not actually supposed to have bedtimes. They need to go to bed. but I'm tired and I'm like, everybody needs to go to bed because I want to go to bed and I don't want to have to manage all you guys. And that's a struggle, is management. When do you manage? When do you have hands off? And the HD name is called biting through. And it's also this grasping energy. When you want to control, you're kind of like, I need to control and morph. And because if you let it go, maybe there's a fear there of, it's not going to go the way I want it to. So I have to control. I have to control this person. I have to control life. So I guess the question you'd ask yourself is, when you feel inside of you that you need to control something externally that wasn't given to you, that is not your responsibility, explore that before you act. And even if you act, look back and see, why did I do what I just did? My son is the 21.2, and the keynote there is, it's very physical. He puts his hands on people all the time. And sometimes he says, I can't control myself, Mom. I'm like, well, this is your evolution sphere, and this is something you're going to have to work through, because it's not okay to put hands on people and physically move them, control them, hold them back, restrain them. And it's hard for him. And especially if you have it in a really challenging position, control is going to be something that you're going to struggle with. And all of us as humans have control issues. It's just the name of the game, that we just do at some degree, some variance of level or not. So is the control justified and necessary, or is it not? So just asking yourself that. It is beneficial when you're given the permission. And the 45 has to recognize you. It's the king, the queen, the ruler. It has the resources and saying, hey, 21, I'd love you to manage my land. I'd love you to manage my property, manage my people, manage my whatever the management is. It's very physical too. Aries is a very physical type. So control, willpower, management, biting through. Those are some keywords that are associated with that. And just ask yourself, what is the nature of this urge to control?
And like you're saying, this is tribal, and tribal in its very essence has to do with that touch, with that physical aspect of it. And we're going to look at the different clinging later in a couple of gates when we come to the 3, because that's also inner control need that comes out as a clinging, but quite different in the individual circuitry as opposed to the tribal circuitry. When I first wrote the descriptions of the archetypes, it was very important for me that the archetype was embodying the higher frequency, and that we could see them as somebody to lean into when we want to be able to embody a higher frequency. At the same time, everything that we're doing with Unlock Your Design and the examples that Ash is taking, there are important challenges that are there within what we call in the Gene Keys shadows. Of course, knowing them is also important. I could see that at that level, that is beyond trying. Because we can say, we can try to manage, you can try to do this or that, you can try to not put hands on. In the higher frequency, when we look at the 21 and the 25, for me, they are like a beautiful pair of lovers that are in the very beginning of the wheel, where we have a more feminine, innocent energy, receiving energy in that 25 with the cusp of Pisces, that is able to receive life deeply, even receiving the penetration, receiving the shock of everything. And then we have this essence here of courage, of valor, of somebody who's like, it's not even that people choose them. That's what we have in the collective circuitry with the leadership of the 21. Yeah, you have to be chosen. You have to be voted for. It has to be objective. It has to be in a certain patterns of you become our president or our prime minister. But here is like how you show up in the tribe, how you show up on the land. You are going to be appointed to that. But it's in a more tribal way that it happens here in the 21.
If you're clinging and holding on too tightly, don't worry, because the next transit is going to be Thunder, which is the gate of shock. And life loves to shock us, especially for clinging and holding on to things too tightly. And it's called the arousing. So it's going to wake something up in us. If we're not mindful, if we're not intuitive, look at this. 51's program partner is a 57. We're in Aries. Aries is act, go. 51 says, I'm first, I go. 57 is intuitive. It's also Libra, which is, do I do this or do I not? It's taking its time to figure things out, to have clarity. 51 just goes. And then you can learn with the consequences of what happens, because it's shock, it's awakening, it's courage, it's competition. And it is quite audacious, which is what Aries is as well. It's going to shake people out of complacency. So if you've been comfortable, if you've been complacent, it's here. The timing will come. big surprises, good and bad. Awakening comes to wake up parts of us that have been dormant, that have been pushed down or disassociated or whatever. It brings us back to something. Again, brings us back to innocence, right? 51 to 25, death does that, divorce does that, so many things. And how you deal with it is whether or not you're going to come back to innocence or not, or if you're going to start hating life and hating humanity and hating God and hating everything. Because the 25 is a greater spirit, also God. So if life shocks you, you're like, why would God take my child away from me? What kind of God does that? You can start hating that. But eventually, hopefully, life will initiate you back into love, universal love, a higher love. But it's here to catalyze, and it will disrupt. The purpose is to disrupt stagnation and initiate transformation, much like the 39 that will come back through here, right here in Cancer. It's going to disrupt something. Things got to move. Remember, we said there's many initiations, there's many thresholds, there's many times for new beginnings. So here we've got boldness. Here we can develop our resilience. And here we have the courage to face chaos, to face these challenges. It is very courageous, the 51. It has to go first. It says I go first. And so if you don't, life will push you off the cliff. If you're like, no, I don't want to jump. Nope, life will push you off the cliff. It'll happen. So what's for you will always come to you, and it's jolting. It can be shocking. So this is to give you a spirit of courage. Aries is so courageous. So if you can channel this 51 energy during that time to just leap, be bold, leap, take initiative, be first. It'll bode you well during this transit. Otherwise, life will come and just push you off. And say, yeah, you're doing it anyways. No more thinking.
Yeah, this is the only channel that is defined in the first quarter of the year. So here we have that energy of initiation connecting the ego and the G, the 25 and the 51. They're interested in this first quarter, the quarter of starting new. Even if you start a new job or if you start a new family or something, it doesn't have to be a new life, but it's that energy of new beginnings and of initiation and of becoming more ourselves, because that's really the connection between the G and the ego.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, all of this to return home to ourselves, returning home to ourselves. This can be seen as one of the endings of the zodiac wheel of the Rave Mandala. This is the gate of endings. This is the 42. This is completion. This is the nomad. And completion has to do with endings of cycles. The 42 is connected to the 53. The 53 is beginnings. The 42 is endings. And it's here to initiate us into cycles of evolution, of expansion, of growth. This is the channel of growth. We're here to learn here. We're here to have new experiences. And the nomad it's what happens at the end of a journey. It's what happens at the end of the hero's journey. You've been through the ringer. You've been through a particular cycle. You're at the end of it. And hopefully at the end of it, you've taken the time to digest, to metabolize, to see what was the meaning of this cycle? What was the meaning of this initiation? Wow, this is what I just went through. And you extract the medicine. And because you've learned from it, you don't repeat it. And what I always say is that we repeat what we don't complete. And this is the gate of completion. So if we don't take the time to learn from our mistakes, to learn from our journeys, then we're gonna put ourselves right back into the same cycle. That's why people end up going into the same relationships, having the same problems, having the same things, because it's here to show us, to grow us. And so the nomad comes in to complete a cycle, and then we get to evaluate if we're gonna begin or not. We're not evaluating with our ego if we're gonna do it again or not. We can say all we want, no, never again. But guess what? If you didn't learn, you're going to do it again. And that's why it comes before the 3. The 42 is the endings. The 3 is the eternal child, is new beginnings. And it's like Bella said, where the cycle begins. Right? The 3 in the 7 years of deconditioning that she mentioned with Richard Rudd. This is the beginning. And then the midpoint is the 50. And so as you're on this journey, as you're on this cycle, your cells are changing. There's mutation happening. That is the 3. That is the nature of the 3. It is to mutate, it is to change. And we're here to rewrite our corrupt DNA, our corrupt coding, the things that are not serving us anymore. Maybe they served us in the past, but it's not right now. So the 42 is asking you to let go. It's asking you to empty your pack of what's not necessary. The programming partner of the 42 is the 32, which is the guardian. It's here to say, what will I carry with me and what can I let go of? Because not everything that you learned on this journey needs to come with you in the next one. You're like a nomad. You're like a traveler. And at the end of a journey, if you climbed a mountain and you had all these harnesses and everything you need to climb a mountain, you don't need to do that in the next journey because you're not climbing a mountain anymore. So you can take with you what you've learned on it or the things that might work well with the next journey, but you'll have to let go because you have to make space, because this is about increase of growth, increase of what you've learned, and you need more space. You need to make space. Just like Pisces season was telling us, is what can we let go? The 42 is completion, ending, closure. So here we do need to wrap things up and let things go and make space so that the new can come through. And if the new comes through, or if the mutation comes and that stuff isn't let go of, it's going to push it out of the way. It's not going to be utilized, and it'll happen gradually in its own way. But mutation comes when it comes, and that pulse can't be avoided. So better to be conscious and mindful about that retreat and integration period where you have to look back at a cycle and say, what did I learn? What will I carry with me? What's the truth of this? That's going to help you not repeat these cycles. So take that moment during the 42 to ask, to celebrate. Oh my God, this is about celebration too. You end something, you celebrate. You have a freaking party. Have a party for it. And then move on to the next thing. But don't forget to celebrate. And we cannot have expectations of what a cycle is going to be for us. What a relationship. If you have expectations at the beginning of a relationship, you're murdering it in that moment, because it might not even be what you're expecting. And you're going to have more pain and more suffering if you're clinging again to what you're expecting it to be. You can have goals, you can have an idea of what you want, but the harder you cling, the more you're going to be let down. And life is going to give you what you need and not necessarily what you want. But you'll get what you need to grow up, to move forward. So that's the advice, is celebrate your endings. And if it totally brought you in a different direction you didn't even assume was going to even be possible, celebrate that. Be like, wow, that was an amazing right turn. And I thought we were going this direction, but it ended up being like this. And that hurt, that sucked, but here's what I learned. And then move forward.
Yeah, so much wisdom here. So increase, I often think about it as you go around the wheel and you accumulate experiences and wisdom, and then you're at the top of the mountain and you could go down skiing in all that increasing speed. And at the same time here, that's not the pinnacle, that's not the end station, because it's always about cycles. And that's what we're going to see as well in that combination in the channel. So to not just hold on to something because now we are really good at it, but to also allow what we already have mastered to leave so that there can be something new to master. And that can be hard, especially for the mind, because the mind likes to feel safe, that now we are mastering this and now we can stay there. But that isn't true increase. So that's why here it can also be a little bit tricky to dare to be the nomad, to dare to let go and detach.
I do want to mention one more thing about the 53 as you are concluding things. Think about the way in which whatever cycle you're in began, because those were the seeds that you planted, and that's going to give you insight into like what harvest you reaped at the end. So that's also how you're going to be able to learn. So if you have a relationship ending, if you have a job ending, if you have anything ending that you're consciously aware of, look back at how it began. It's going to tell you exactly what you were meant to learn during this season, because the nature of the beginning is also the nature of the ending. They're related. And I think that's also why bring in the 53 right now. 53 is here. They go together. 53, 42. 53 is a beginning as well as the 3. And we'll move into that 3 now as we are looking at the eternal child, which is another sacral gate. And it's reaching for the 60 in the root, where it's going to get the pulse of mutation. This is called difficulty at the beginning. It's not easy. It's chaos. The newness is going to be so new that you're not used to it. You don't even know how to organize it. But it's something that we all have to learn to deal with, because change is a necessary component of life. You can't avoid it. It will come for you. And it's here to ensure, like, the whole purpose of the 3 in the individual mutative circuitry is to bring about diversity, genetic diversity, lots of new ideas, lots of new creativity. It's going to ensure that life forms and patterns are going to emerge, evolve, change. It has to, because we're all growing, we're all evolving, and the things that worked before aren't going to work now. So this is the seed of new ventures. It's going to require patience. It's going to require stable foundations. We need that to flourish. But first, we have to see, what are we even working with? Everybody can face initial resistance here. Things have to have proper timing, steady nurturing, all of that. We're moving into Taurus season. This is half Aries, half Taurus. It cares about nurturing. It cares about things that will grow and maintain and sustain over time. So it's not going to be haphazard in the things that it's creating. It does actually care about making sure that it's viable, making sure that it can thrive. So this is an archetype that's going to come in to initiate you into new beginnings. You'll have your shocks, you'll have your endings, but it's also a potential for new beginnings. So what we will create, what will be new. And when you feel that pulse of inspiration, of creativity, follow it, follow through with it, be the creator, allow yourself to see even more than your ego. What is spirit? What is the collective? What am I being initiated into? What am I the vessel for? It chose you because you're here to birth it through into the world, because you're the only one that can do it in the way that you do, right? Ideas can go from person to person, but it's the end result that is really about you and your individuality and your personality, and nobody's going to do it the way you do it. And that's why competition is it's an illusion. You're going to do it way differently than everyone else will. You're going to organize something way differently than someone else will. So this is where you get your creative sovereignty here, is how will I begin this? How will I begin this? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just add something about where we started. So that first gate or gene key where life can be completely at rest or it can be sparking. And I think that also going back to the mind is that we like creativity and society like creativity and creation and movement. And it's not that easy to just wait for the pulse, wait for life to come. And that's something with the 3. And it can feel quite frustrating, and this energy again that we're looking at, the initiation of thunder in those lower chakras of the root and the sacral, to know that there is something that wants to come through. There is a mutation, there is an energy, there's a pulse, but then we have to wait for it. And that's just also when it comes to the archetypes and how the sun is moving on the skies, is like part of the deeper individuation that we were speaking about in the beginning is to start to accept and not try to work against the life and against the transits. And that goes together with not necessarily having preference. So whether I'm feeling excruciating pain or ecstatic bliss, whether I'm feeling the pulse or I'm feeling the lack thereof, how can I be present with what is without winnowing around in it necessarily, but to be in the dance with each one of these archetypes and these energies that are moving. And that's how we are able to embody more and hold more and more. And the energy of the 3, and especially people that have the 360, like they come into a group of people or they're in a family, and they are often the black sheep because they are the ones that are going to unexpectedly just mutate everything. And that's not really popular in society. So yeah, we have that energy here too on the cusp, where we have a lot of the initiation in Aries, but this is also a little bit of the Taurus energy. So there's a little bit of paradox in this one. And if you have, of course, if you have it in your incarnation cross activation sequence, or even your nodes, a lot of your life is going to have to do with this. And as Ashley was saying, the other side of the 50. So it's going to be breaking through a lot of the old, see what serves and what doesn't serve, even seeing the corruption of what's been and mutating into something new, a higher frequency that serves the individual, but that also is going to serve the tribe and beyond.
And also with the 3 that we ended with, there's a lot of beginnings and freshness and newness happening here. And this is a great opportunity, even cosmically, for us to come into this individual journey of self, right? This is a great time for self-development, for personal growth. And we're moving into Aries, into the first house, into the self. And we walk the wheel. That's our process. We've got Venus and Mercury retrograde. And so this is a time to go inward, right? We can see how the transits impact us, what it wants to do through us. And so it may not be a right time to go and put all this stuff out into the world unless you've done the walk, unless you've gone inside. You want to make sure that you're all here. And it sounds funny to say that you're all here. Yes, I'm here. I'm physically here. But is all of you here? Have you breathed life into all parts of you? Do you have a great relationship with all parts of you? I know that depending on our journey in life, we're all moving towards more and more self-love. And it seems like even the older generation, as you're getting towards the completion and ending, they seem to have figured things out, right? They've come into this peace with life, hopefully, maybe, mostly. So can we do that? Can we come into peace, love with all parts of ourselves? And that's what we're offering to the world. So if there's wounded, screaming parts of us, can we be that parent that we didn't have with them? This is the Venus work too. We speak about that as well, is you got to walk that Venus stream and see, how can I reparent myself, come back to my true essence and sharing that with the world. So this is where everything begins. This is where everything starts. And so we're gonna share with you more about walking the wheel and how you might take these next steps with us. But I do want to come in and bring you and Bella into this kind of threshold or initiation that's in front of us, all of us watching.
Yes, this is a lot of information. So just to, from an overview level, how to look at what we did today. So if you had any of those 6 gates that we've been speaking about, it's been a chance for you to get to know these archetypal energies deeper. And maybe you had no idea that you had a lot of Aries in your chart, because all of these have to do with Aries. And maybe it's your design side that has a lot of those archetypes. Well, then your design side has a lot of Aries. Maybe even your radiance or your design sun is in Aries. So then this energy is going to be very present. So today it's been a way of looking at what are those archetypal energies of Aries seen from a I Ching human design gene key perspective, also connecting them to the body graph and the connecting channel. And then to be able to feel into where that is in your chart and knowing what Aries is about, new beginnings and the spark and the self-empowerment. That's the energy that lives inside of you through these archetypes. So we are actually exploring, like Ashley said, this time today is important that you are here with you and for you. And Aries is to get to know self, is to get to know who you are in the world. And all these archetypes that we have been navigating through today are helping us with that. And in the self-empowerment, and we have this outward going masculine fire energy, there is an output. And that's more and more what's been coming to me and Ashley lately, that there was something where it felt like maybe we are teaching people these systems in terms of the theory of it. And we have done this for so long, so it's quite easy to just speak to this. Like any question that you ask us, you're probably going to have some kind of answer around it. But what has been boiling inside is even more than what really makes us happy and feel satisfied as pure generators, is that we see that there are people that are taking the language, the translation, the systems, what we are putting out there in terms of the archetypes, and they are creating their own things with it. They are going out and they are doing maybe readings for people, or they are doing something creative in terms of art with it. And that feels so satisfying, because it's like what started as a little seed in us, in our core, is becoming bigger and it doesn't die. And I think that's the whole thing with the living transmission, that it continues. And the day it doesn't continue, it's almost like it's the 42. Then it lives out, it has lived out its mastery and its time. So I think that what we also want to spark is to say, okay, we love to be here and have this output and show you the overlay and speak to these systems. But what are you doing with it? And how are these archetypes and this initiating energy of Aries, how is that being translated into your life? And how can we also get a glimpse of that in some way? Whether you come in and do things with us and it's very tangible, that we see that you are translating and you are expressing, or it's something that we get to somehow get a glimpse of. I don't have biological children, and I think that's something very similar though with projects that you're creating. When you see them grow up and you see how they're moving in the world, there's something so satisfying with that because it goes beyond the little human. That's sometimes also where people have a lot of first lines. They're holding on to their creations. And when it comes to Unlock Your Design, it's so different than that. We are not holding on to it, but we would love to feel like it has this dialogue where together also we are evolving with them and we get to explore them with you guys. And like Ashley was saying, thank you for walking the wheel with us, because what we are doing every Tuesday is people are coming in, and it's so rewarding to just know that this is not a theory. This is not just a book. It's so much more the coming in and out and those points where we are connecting and where we're getting it and we have the aha moments. So what are we doing? I think that boiling it down, what are we doing with those systems? If you've been into human design for a while, Gene Keys, astrology, what are you doing with it? Is it just another library, another shelf in your inner library? Or is it something that the world get to taste as well and that comes out in terms of your output of your expression in the world?
Just to feel into the threshold and what Bella's mentioning, weaving it all together, is what you do next is your prerogative. What you do next is the right next step for you. But there is a step forward, and to be conscious of how you're beginning this cycle. Like I said, how you begin it is the seeds for the ending. And so are you setting yourself up for success? And if this is something you want to live, embody, be, do, then I'm glad that you're here, because this has been a process that has worked for us. And that's why there's so many systems out there, is because many people are going to find their way to the thing that is going to be best for their next level of evolution and growth and expansion over time, right? And so what we offer is the method of walking the wheel, because you guys are interested in the systems of human design, gene keys, astrology, all that stuff. But I want to preface that it's not just about learning it, it's about living it. And that's what we hope to do in what we offer, is we offer the calls on Tuesdays for you guys to walk the wheel with us. That's where we're going to talk about it, connect to it, have a conversation about it. Sometimes we are just intellectualizing it and starting to understand it. But as we start walking with it and being with it and living with it, we get to start to feel that change inside. Something lands, something drops in. And that's why we're doing the Inner Circle, is our monthly membership, and we're walking the wheel together. And we're doing things that are going to help you embody it and live it. We offer the courses that we've put together to help you get that information, right? But then we have interaction with each other where we're answering questions, we're helping you walk it, we're doing workshops so that you're actually testing out and trying these archetypes, trying on the costume, because the more versatile you can be, the more you can adapt and overcome with anything that comes your way, right? We want you to broaden your ability to dance with life, not just learning the salsa, learning like all the dances of life. Life's going to be like, hi, do you want to dance this dance? I don't know how to do that. Wouldn't you like to know how to dance all the 64 archetype dances, or speak them as a language? Like, you are them. You're an amalgamation. You're a alchemy of all of them. So might as well start growing each of these archetypes up in you. Some of them are very immature. Some of them need more nurturing. Some of them need to grow up more. Some of them are bullish and they just want to be the only ones that are driving the car. We got to take turns driving the car. So you can join us for the Inner Circle. You can join us for the Walking the Wheel. If you want to join the Inner Circle, we have a code IC50 that gives you 50% off of the first 3 months. Jump in, say yes, be bold. Try it for the 3 months that you have the discount for, and then figure out if this is a rhythm you want to continue.
And then happily, Ashley.
What? Okay, disagree.
I'm going to disagree, because when
Jump in for the year?
Yeah, if there was one point where you would go for the year, not the 3 months, is here. Also because when we were speaking about everything we've done and doing it as a school and as a certification, then at the same time, we felt that we really want the embodiment aspect of it. So this is going to be the first stage of whatever facilitator for Unlock Your Design with Unlock Your Design material. And to have all the archetypes is different. It's very hard to like even give you a certificate of completion if you don't walk with all the archetypes. Like, who is to say that Aries is more important than Scorpio, right? So the whole thing about walking the wheel for a year is that it's a process and it has that completion point once you walk for a year. So that's definitely here the point, starting from 0, Aries, and going around. So if there was one time where you're like, okay, I'm going to do it this year. I want to learn the 64 archetypes. I want to have this paper of completion so that at least my mind can feel like it's done. When I'm thinking about this method, this process, this framework that we are putting out into the world, is the way of certifying this is always going to have both components. There has to be an embodiment component, and then there has to be a component of the theory. You could wake me up in the middle of the night, or Ashley, and you could ask us about gate 18, and we would speak to you about gate 18, right? So there has to be an aspect of like knowing what it is, and also not just guessing, but even knowing where 18 is in the wheel, the quarter, and the sign, and all these things. And at the same time, if we see you show up on the Tuesday call and you're like completely outside your inner authority and your aura type, then there's also going to have to be a conversation about that, or a noticing of that, so that you can course correct. And that's why the embodiment, together with other people that care about embodiment of true self, which is also this process that we are discovering as we're going of deeper individuation, which seems sometimes contrary to the gene keys. Oh, it's the we, not the me. The great question is, how can I serve the world? We agree with those questions about the me and the we, but we believe that the deeper individuation of self and accepting yourself for exactly who you are, and those 3 channels, 5 channels, how many ever channels, no channels if you're a reflector, that these are themes that you're here to constantly be impacting the world with. If you have a channel and you're not impacting the world through that channel, then there is something where you need to commune deeper with those archetypes that are in that channel, because it wants to be expressed to you. You're here to be an impact through that energy. And if you, instead of completely focusing on the not self of the ego center, well, again, there is a course correction, and that's so much in the mirroring of people can happen. So we have goodies when it comes to doing the sequences with the planets, with the golden path, with the gene key way of threading and mirroring, and then the mechanics of human design, where it's like, yeah, there's no way you can tell me that you have a channel, but it's not so interesting to you, because then there is a denial, or there is a numbness or a turn off that actually wants to be turned on. And that's what I also feel like what we're doing in a fun way. Sometimes a little bit of confrontation. I have 39 in my North Node and my Ascendant. Sometimes when I was working with John Martin's Human Design Hawaii, he didn't say everything that was comfortable to me. He was a splenic projector, and he would like poke me about my generator aura when it was off frequency. So it's actually really helpful to have those people that can tell you something, not to criticize you, but to allow you to see something that you're not aware of yourself.
Yeah. So jump in whatever capacity you feel called to as you're getting into Aries season. And if you could be supported in a container, I think the thing that people struggle with the most is completion. It's easy to start something, isn't it? But can we commit to complete it? That's the thing that I think has really been the hallmark of me and Bella's growth over time, is that we committed to bringing the archetypes to life together. That's like what initiated us to come together, is that through that project. And then being with them each year, not only is us serving you guys, but it's serving ourselves. Like, we are also learning to grow with them, and things that show up personally for us and within the business and within the community. We're all human, right? And so now is an opportunity for us to take bold action, to take leaps, to move. And if you move, the universe moves with you. And if you build momentum, you're creating this positive inertia. You're going to master it. You're going to master yourself. That's what these systems are for. But if you want to take all these side quests and overload yourself with many different things, that's fine. You can do that too. It's just you're filling multiple cups at once, and it's going to take longer to do that. But I say, if you commit and you say, I'm going to do that, you treat it like a university course, right? You're going to have that diploma. You're going to have that certification. And it's not just about certifications, because what are you even going to do with that anyways? It's really, why? What's your intention? What's the reason for it? You may discover it over time, but if you feel the pull or the draw, then I think it's important to just jump. So that's all we're saying, is that Aries season is about taking bold action, bold leaps, and doing things that scare you. It's easy to dip your toe into something, but when you really commit to it and you say, okay, I'm doing it, then you need to be in it for the long haul, right? You're saying, I'm here, I'm doing it. So are you saying yes? And what's the nature of this yes? Don't be half-hearted. If you're half-hearted in life, then you're going to get half-heartedness all over the place.
I think the power of the conditioning, Ashley, like discovering the true power, because it's easy. People can say to you, oh, it takes 7 years and it's 40 days in each gate. But until you have felt it like on your skin, the power of the conditioning, you might not even want to stay in the experiment. But once you start to feel that, because of course, with the years, we probably become more wiser. We make better decisions. And at the same time, I see plenty of people that don't seem to become wiser, don't seem to become happier or more expanded, and don't seem to face challenges in a way that is more mature. That is something that I can say for a fact. Knowing what I've been through for the last cycle of 7 years, knowing what Ashley has been through, good and bad, how we are facing life is different than what it was 7 years ago. So this experiment, it's not like a spiritual bypassing, going somewhere and putting your head in the sand with some theory of human design and gene keys. People will judge that. People are like, oh, is that the only thing you do in your life? Like that's your main income and stuff like that. That's what you're going to hear in the mainstream. But then parallel to that, if I look at everybody I went to high school with and I compare how aware they are, how expanded their life is, I'm pretty happy about my little bubble that I live in. And I think that's Aries season 2. It's like, it's your individual choice. That's Aries and Taurus, your individual choice of how you're going to create your life and what you want to focus on. But then the question that we're asking today, what are you going to do with what you're focusing on? Because it's a little boring to just do it for your own contemplation or your own reflection. It's so much more cool when what you learned and embodied for yourself becomes a gift to the world. And that is the true serving of the great. How can all this that you did to unlock yourself, to come back to a healthy nervous system, come back to a healthy body, come back to a healthy mind that helps you with the things it's good at, but it doesn't take over your life. All these things, once you are mastering them, how are they actually touching the world?
Isn't that like your energetic blueprint? How we're taught, like, leave things better than how you found them, and how, and what impact and what imprint are we leaving on Earth, right? With the things that we're bringing in, the technology, the innovations, all those things. Like, is it bettering or is it worsening? Like, that's up for debate. But just like the Mother Teresa thing, peace outward, peace inward. What is the ripple effect of you, of your beingness, like who you are? Are people changed and touched? And do they feel better about themselves when they're in your presence? First and foremost, do you feel good about being in your body and yourself? Do you feel at home? And I guess the whole thing is, this is a returning home. And if you go back to Aries' first house, right? Remember in the beginning, I spoke to the portal. The first portal you went through was your mother's womb. There should be a respect and reverence for the portals that we travel through as well. We're moving through Pisces into Aries, and we're being required to let some stuff go. And it's an initiation. And you're returning home to yourself, to your body too. What's your relationship with your body? Aries and Taurus is going to help you understand that. So can we bring more love into this? And as you travel around the wheel, yes, things will spark because everything naturally progresses. You don't need to rush anything. And if you commit to walking the wheel, following things like in the whole cycle, right? You can't opt out of a transit. You can try to, but I'm sorry, you're not leaving for Mars tomorrow. So you're going to be here for the next transit. And it's important for us to just be mindful and to first come home to ourselves, bring it all here, and be courageous enough to be with what shows up for you inside, and work with that, and parent that, and love more. And like I said, eventually everything naturally progresses. You will change the world. You will put something cool into the world. You will create something, because that's just how it goes. But you got to start with yourself first. And that's why this is super important. Yeah, it may be a turn off to a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm going, like, I just want to go out. If you're like a transpersonal profile, 5'1", 6'2", whatever, you're all focused on that. But that's the challenge. Come back into yourself. Build that foundation so you can do what you're dreaming of. But you got to build the foundation first. It's got to be solid. If it's not solid, it's going to crumble. And then you're going to be like, why? And then you're going to be like, oh, worthiness, or oh, da-da-da. Then all those things come up. So that you have to deal with them again because you didn't deal with them before. And it's okay to come back. Like, there's no judgment in coming back to correct past mistakes or the things that we skipped over. No. But if you walk the wheel, you're not skipping over anything. And I guess this is coming from two freaking generators. We're not skipping any steps. We're walking the wheel. Manifesting generators will bounce around. It's okay. That's fine too. Because differentiation. Like, you're going to do it the way you need to do it. But at least we're creating a container where if you need to come in and walk those steps and start to live it in your life, we are here to be that role model for that. We've been doing it for a very long time. And it's a rhythm that is deep in our cells now. Like, we've already gone through the 7 years of deconditioning. At this point, like Bella said, we like live and breathe these systems. They're just who we are. Even if I stop doing this work tomorrow, I'm not going to forget it. It's deep ingrained in me. So if this is something that you want to learn, a language that's going to help you better yourself and better by coming back home to who you always were before you started to pick apart things, let's come back home. And we're here waiting to light the fire of your heart so you can come back home and warm your hands on who you actually are. And we care about you being who you are. We don't want you to be us. We want you to be you. So we'll just keep reminding you that we love your uniqueness and you keep showing up and come as you are, and you're going to do awesome things in the world. But first, do the awesome things in yourself. We love you all. Come play with us. My 3 is saying, come play with us. Bella's saying, take a risk. Take a risk it all. Her 28. Her 28 is saying, risk it all. My 3 is saying, let's play together. Let's be unique together. Let's mutate together. So we're here. Come join the inner circle with us. We've got some really cool things planned that we can't talk about yet. So keep it a secret. But it's coming. It's going to be freaking bomb. And you don't want to miss out. So just get in our world now. Okay? Thank you. Be here. Love you.